Hi guys. Today, we're going to watch a movie about two robbers who, after robbing a big bank, hijack a hotel. But why did they hijack the hotel after robbing the bank? That's what this movie is all about. This story is super interesting. It shows how a thrilling movie can be made using just a single location. The Last Stop in Yuma County is one such thought-provoking film. Let's dive into the story. The movie starts as if it's set in the 1917 era. Our hero arrives at a petrol station on a deserted highway to fill up. As he arrives, we see a sparrow sitting nearby. As soon as his car arrives, the sparrow flies away. At the petrol station, a man named Walter, who works there, tells our hero that there's no petrol. Angry, our hero asks what happened. Walter explains that the petrol truck hasn't arrived yet and that the next petrol station is 100 miles away. Then, Walter suggests that our hero wait at a small diner located behind the petrol station until the truck arrives, so he can fill up and continue his journey. With no other option, our hero goes and parks his car at the diner. After parking, our hero notices something. The diner hasn't opened yet, it's still closed. So, he decides to listen to the radio until it opens. As he turns on the FM, a shocking news report comes on. Two robbers have escaped after robbing nearly $700,000 from a nearby bank. The report mentions that their car is green and has a dent on the back. As our hero is listening to this, a police car pulls up nearby. He sees it's a sheriff's car, and the sheriff of that area arrives. While he's thinking that the sheriff has come to investigate, the heroine steps out of the car. She is the one who runs the diner, and her husband is the sheriff who dropped her off. After the sheriff leaves, our hero decides to get some coffee. As he enters the hotel, the scene cuts to a green car driving down the highway, with an orange-colored truck lying overturned on the side of the road. The movie's title appears on the screen, signaling the start of the film. Back in the diner, our hero anxiously asks the heroine about the fuel truck, wondering when it will arrive, and if it will be late as usual or even later. She reassures him that it will arrive soon, though something feels off today. Sensing his urgency, she asks if something is wrong. He reveals that it's his daughter's birthday, and he wanted to spend the whole day with her. His wife had divorced him, leaving him alone, and his daughter is growing up with her. Hearing this, the heroine says, "That's very sweet of you," and offers to give a cake on his behalf to his daughter. When she notices a small case in his hand, she asks about it, and he explains that he makes and sells knives. He offers to sell her one at a discount. She declines and hands him a newspaper to read until the truck arrives. At that moment, a green car pulls up at the petrol station near the diner. Yes, it's the same robbers who had just robbed the bank. One of them is named Travis, an older man, and the other is John. They've stopped to refuel on their way, but there's no petrol here. Walter repeats the same thing he told our hero earlier, leaving the robbers with no choice but to wait. Without petrol, if they leave from here, they'll definitely get caught. So, they decide to wait for the petrol to arrive. With no other option, the robbers enter the coffee shop, ask the heroine for a coffee, and sit down. Our hero notices their car and realizes it's the same green car mentioned on the radio, with a dent on the back. He confirms to himself that these are the two robbers. Subtly, our hero calls the heroine over and shows her the knife he has, saying, "Look, the knife is like this." While the robbers aren't looking, he quietly says, "Did you hear the news this morning? Check the car outside. It's a green car with a dent on the back. I have a feeling these are the robbers." One of the robbers, John, overhears this and realizes that the hero and heroine might know something about them. As the heroine tries to discreetly inform her husband by calling the sheriff, John places his hand on her head and threatens, "If you don't hang up the receiver, your head will be blown off." Terrified, the heroine hangs up the phone. The robbers have now realized that the hero and heroine know everything about them. The situation becomes tense, with only the hero and heroine in the entire diner. Sitting down, they ask, "Is there another car we can use to escape from here?" The heroine replies that there's no car, as her husband took it. The hero's car doesn't have any petrol either, so escaping seems impossible. What about Walter, who's outside? Does he have any vehicle? They ask, but they learn that Walter doesn't have a vehicle either, as he stays here. Realizing that the only way they can escape is by waiting for the fuel truck to arrive, the robbers keep a close watch. The hero and heroine know that these are the robbers. Under the threat of a gun, John warns them, "If you stay quiet and cooperate, we'll leave once the petrol arrives without harming anyone. But if you try to tell anyone about this, I'll cut the phone wire first," and he cuts the phone line. Afterward, the hero tells the heroine, "This is my plan. I will escape quickly. If any customer comes in, you must handle the situation and keep running the diner. Go back to your place first and stand still. If anything goes wrong, unnecessary lives could be lost." He then positions the heroine in her place, and they both sit quietly in the diner. After a while, an elderly couple arrives. The hero, noticing them, thinks, "Oh no, elderly people coming in now." Meanwhile, the heroine goes over to them and says, "The AC isn't working here, it's quite stuffy. Would you like to wait outside?" But they reply, "It's better here than outside. We'll sit here." With no other option, she takes their order. At the same time, the hero notices a police car approaching the diner. The police officer inside is the heroine's husband, the sheriff, who had received a call from her earlier. The sheriff says, "My wife called me. What's going on? Did you check at the petrol station?" He then suggests getting coffee for everyone. Observing this, the robbers, especially the older one, John, become suspicious. John tells Travis, "I feel like this woman is lying. Go to Walter's room and find out if there's a car at the petrol station." Travis then approaches Walter, asking, "Sir, do you have a car?" "It's urgent." Walter replies, "Everything I need is here, I don't have a car." Travis then asks to use Walter's restroom, and while he's gone, the heroine thinks, "I need to find a way to inform the sheriff about this." She then writes "help" on the cap of a coffee cup and mixes a lot of sugar into it, knowing her husband dislikes sugar. John notices this and asks, "Why is there something scribbled on only one cup?" The heroine quickly responds, "My husband doesn't like sugar, so I marked the cup for him." This explanation somewhat convinces John. Meanwhile, the sheriff goes to the petrol station, and Travis returns. Upon seeing the police officer, Travis nervously reaches for his gun, but the hero notices and signals with his eyes not to make a scene. A little later, the police officer takes the coffee and spills it on John. Unfortunately, the sugar-laden coffee, meant as a clue for the sheriff, gets ruined. He enters the room, apologizing profusely. Left with no other option, our heroine starts making coffee again. But she reassures herself, "It's fine, we can give another clue." After preparing the coffee, she begins looking for a marker to write with. Meanwhile, John Twist takes the marker and keeps it with him, preventing anyone from getting a clue. The heroine, still clueless, hands over the coffee and sends it off. The policeman takes the coffee and leaves without any issues. Suddenly, Walter enters with a bang, surprising everyone. He says, "It will take another hour for the fuel truck to arrive. I just called, and they've already sent it. If it doesn't arrive within an hour, they'll send another truck." Hearing this, everyone in the room sighs, realizing they have to wait another hour. Walter then asks the heroine for a coffee and sits beside her, casually asking, "I tried calling you earlier, but the call didn't go through." This makes the heroine anxious as John is watching her intently. She tries to manage the situation, explaining, "Oh, nothing major. The phone line was probably cut when I arrived. Maybe there was some trouble last night." Walter responds, "All right, if you need to make an emergency call, there's a phone in my cabin. Feel free to use it." John, noticing everything, keeps an eye on the situation. Meanwhile, the policeman delivers the coffee to the sheriff, who then says, "Apparently, the fuel truck hasn't arrived yet. That's why the customers are still here. They called to inform us that they're a bit busy today." The sheriff, sensing something odd, comments, "Usually, they wouldn't call just to say they're busy. But anyway, have your coffee," and remains calm. As the story unfolds, a new car approaches the diner. The passengers, 2 people, are revealed to be financially struggling and completely broke, uncertain about how to continue their lives. As they approach the diner, it becomes clear that they're up to something. Suddenly, the boy stops the car near a petrol station, and the girl questions him, "How are you going to get petrol when we don't have even a penny?" The boy points to a green car and says, "They must have heard the same news on FM. It's the same green car with a dent on the back. It must be that car." They then decide to try and open the trunk of the car. Just as they're about to do so, Walter comes out after finishing his meal. The duo quickly hides under the car, and Walter, noticing them, says, "It seems like customers have arrived. The fuel truck is delayed, so you can wait in the diner until it arrives." Inside the diner, the boy tells the girl, "I suspect those two are the thieves. They must be the robbers." The girl responds, "Why not? See that elderly couple sitting over there? It could be them. Nowadays, it's these old folks who commit such crimes." Meanwhile, the hero has just finished his theft and, seeing the boy, the girl remarks, "He looks like a total psycho." The duo's plan is to identify the robbers and steal the money from them. As they observe the situation, a new character is introduced, a cowboy-like figure. He's a regular at the diner, coming here just for the food. The cowboy sits beside the heroine and asks, "Why is there such a crowd in your place today?" She explains, "It's nothing much. The fuel truck is delayed. What would you like to eat?" The villain John, guessing that the cowboy is a regular, strikes up a conversation, asking, "Did you come here for fuel too, sir?" The cowboy replies, "No, I come here regularly just for the food. The food here is great." John then decides that they will escape using the cowboy's truck and begins formulating a plan. As the tension builds, a song plays in the background, showcasing each character in slow motion. The heroine, now appearing to be the wife of another policeman, picks up a sharp knife and approaches the cowboy's table. However, at the last moment, John grabs the heroine at gunpoint. Meanwhile, the driver holds the cowboy at gunpoint, threatening him, "All I need is your truck. Give me the keys, and we'll leave without any harm." The cowboy, staying calm, waits patiently, but suddenly he pulls out a gun. Instantly, everyone in the diner pulls out their guns. The cowboy, now pointing his gun at the villains, says, "Seems like everyone here is armed to the teeth, huh?" The old man from that couple was also pointing at the villain. But there's a twist here. The man from the younger couple points his gun at our cowboy. He then makes a deal with the robbers, saying, "We'll help you, but you need to give us a share." With that, they switch sides and join the villains. Now, there's a tense silence. Everyone is wondering what will happen next. Our cowboy starts speaking, "Nothing should go wrong here. I'll hand over my key, but nothing should happen to her, the heroine," he says, gesturing to the heroine and handing over the key. But just as he's doing this, the heroine, in a rush, grabs a hidden knife and stabs the villain in the chest. In a fit of rage, the villain shoots the heroine in the head. Seeing this, the cowboy shoots the villain in the neck. The older couple then starts shooting at the cowboy, switching back and forth, until both of them are dead. The heroine is also dead. The young man from the couple is dead too. The girl is the only one left unharmed, along with our cowboy and the driver. But John got shot in the neck. He's sitting in a corner, holding his neck. The driver, unsure of what to do, holds the gun in his hand, thinking he should threaten the cowboy. But just as he's approaching BM, he gets shot in the body. Who did this, he wonders. It's Walter, making a grand entrance, holding a shotgun and shooting the driver. But in his excitement, Walter doesn't notice and gets shot in the neck. As John is sitting there, he pushes Walter away. Now, the place has turned into a complete bloodbath. Only two people remain unharmed, the girl from the young couple and our cowboy. In this situation, the cowboy thinks he should use the situation to his advantage. The girl tries to grab the gun from the floor to shoot the cowboy, but in the last second, the gun gets stuck. That's it, the cowboy seizes the opportunity. He takes a knife from his collection and stabs the girl, finishing her off. Now, with a gun in his hand, the cowboy notices that the villain is still alive. He points the gun at him. But due to blood loss, the villain dies in a short while. Holding the gun, the cowboy looks around. The place is a complete wasteland. He feels a bit emotional, thinking about the heroin. After that, he goes outside, thinking, how did it come to this? But luckily, we survived. He decides to call the police and report the situation. So, he goes to Walter's room, picks up the phone, and starts dialing. Just as the phone is about to ring, a double thought crosses the cowboy's mind. $75 million. It would take years to earn this much. And here we are with no one else to share it with. He thinks to himself, we didn't do anything wrong. If we think about it, we could just take the money ourselves. With that greedy thought, the cowboy cuts the phone line and walks outside, determined to escape without leaving any evidence behind. If he had wanted, he could have taken the cowboy's truck and left from there. But that would create evidence. So, what he plans to do is, take the petrol from the cowboy's truck, fill his own car, erase all traces and evidence of his presence there, and escape with the money. He starts working on that plan now. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the sheriff, who is shown trying to call his wife. However, the call doesn't go through, it's dead. So he says, all right, call Walter who lives nearby. The phone rings, but Walter doesn't pick up. The sheriff starts to sense that something is wrong and says, okay, I'll go check in person, and sets off. Cut back to our hero. He has finished switching the money and filling his car with petrol. Then he takes John's car keys and puts them back in his pocket. He then gathers all evidence of his presence there, including the newspaper he used, and the cake he had given to the heroine's daughter, and throws everything into the trash can. After ensuring that everything is settled, he gets ready to leave. Just as he is about to leave, two new characters arrive in a car and park outside. The sound startles our hero, and he runs to hide, wondering who has arrived. He sees that it's a couple, who have come just to fill up on petrol. After waiting for a long time, they don't see anyone around and decide to go inside, only to find everyone dead. Seeing this, the couple panics and considers calling the police. At that moment, our hero steps out and points a gun at them, saying, "Don't call the police." The couple, terrified, initially thinks that our hero is the one responsible for all the murders. However, our hero insists, "I didn't do any of this. You won't understand if I explain. I just need to escape from here, and I don't care about anything else." Then, the husband looks at his wife and says, "Sarah, I love you so much," which lightly tugs at the hero's conscience because his daughter's name is also Sarah. This softens him a bit, and he decides to make a deal. He says, "All right, I'm leaving now. Don't tell the police about what happened here or about me. I'll give you $10,000 for your silence." The couple agrees. Our hero opens the trunk to get the $10,000, but as he does, the couple sees all the money and says, "Hey, aren't you the bank robber we saw on the news this morning?" Already tense, the hero responds, "Yes, I'm the one. I killed everyone inside. If you tell anyone about me, no matter how many years pass, I'll find you and kill you." He then tries to intimidate them by looking up and firing his gun, but the gun doesn't work, it's stuck. The husband, seeing this, tries to fight the hero. Just then, the gun suddenly works, and in the confusion, the hero accidentally shoots the woman, Sarah. "Did you just kill my wife?" shouts the husband, leading to a struggle between them. In the scuffle, our hero fires his gun wildly, and one of the bullets hits the petrol tank of the car he had refueled earlier, causing petrol to start leaking. But our hero doesn't realize this. Underneath the car, there is a rod. He grabs the rod and uses it to strike, intending to finish off the husband. At that moment, he hears the cry of a child. He turns around and sees a baby in the car that the couple arrived in. It looks like their child. Seeing the child, our hero feels something inside him shift. He starts to regret the extreme lengths he went to for money. If he had let the regret consume him, he might have stayed there or taken the child and fled. But instead, he does nothing. Without caring about anything, he decides that escaping with the money is the priority. He gets into the car and drives off. Greed can drive a person to do anything. Look at what it made our hero do. Without a second thought, he was blinded by the allure of wealth. That same greed drove him to all these actions. As he drives away with the money, the sheriff arrives at the scene a little later. He finds the diner in ruins, and upon seeing his wife dead, he cries out in grief. Afterward, he starts piecing together what might have happened. He notices that the woman's neck had been slashed with a knife. He steps outside and sees the same green car with a dent in the back. The robbers must have done all this, he thinks. He opens the trunk of the car but finds no money. As he ponders what might have happened, he notices the trail of leaking petrol. At that moment, he hears the cry of a baby. He rushes over and rescues the child. Handing the baby over to the police officer who arrived with him, he vows to find the one responsible for all this. He then gets into his vehicle and starts chasing the path our hero took. The scene shifts to our hero, who is shown struggling as the fuel in his car has leaked so much that the car comes to a halt. He grabs only the bag of money and walks a bit further until he finds a large orange truck that has crashed. Upon checking, he sees the driver is already dead. This is the same fuel truck shown at the beginning of the movie. He wonders if he can get any fuel from this truck to continue his escape. Just then, the sheriff arrives at the scene with sirens blaring. Hearing the sound, our hero hides. The sheriff, on the other hand, gets out of his car and checks our hero's vehicle. He opens the case containing the knife and finds that it is filled with knives. One of those knives had been used to slit the throat of the woman in the diner. So, this guy is the killer, the sheriff concludes. He looks around and sees our hero climbing onto the truck, trying to do something. The sheriff starts firing at him, but our hero quickly ducks for cover. "Sheriff, please listen to me. I am not responsible for what happened back there. The robbers killed everyone in the diner. I only took the money and ran. Please believe me," our hero pleads. The sheriff, however, is enraged. "How can I believe you? The same knife you have in your car is the one that was used on that girl in the diner. Don't try to spin me some ghost story. You killed my wife," the sheriff screams, consumed by a murderous rage. Our hero realizes that talking won't work. To survive, he might have to kill the sheriff as well. He sees that the fuel truck is already leaking, so he decides to set it on fire to cause an explosion and create a distraction. He lights it with a lighter and starts running to escape. Seeing this, the sheriff runs to our hero's side and starts shooting at him furiously. When he shoots, a bullet hits our hero in the stomach. In the next moment, the fuel truck catches fire and explodes, with both our hero and the sheriff caught in the blast, leading to their deaths. After all this, when we wonder if our hero managed to escape with the money, there's a twist. The bullet from the sheriff had lodged in our hero's stomach, and only now does he notice the blood and the pain. Even so, he picks up the money and starts walking away. As he walks, the bag tears, and the money starts flying out. That's it, he can't even take another 10 steps before collapsing. As all this unfolds, the scene shows a small bird sitting and watching from a corner. This same bird was shown at the beginning of the movie. While the bird is shown, suddenly, a larger bird, a hawk, comes and snatches it away. Symbolically, what they're trying to say is that no matter what kind of criminal plan you make, in the end, you will be hunted down in the same way. It's an unwritten rule of nature. This is how the movie ends. We can let go of this message, but the fact that they made an entire movie in a coffee shop so interestingly is really impressive. Without any dull moments, they keep us engaged, making us wonder what will happen next. In short, I felt like sharing this kind of story with you, and that's why I did. Definitely go watch this movie and check it out.